The darkness doesn't always announce itself. She stayed home from school that morning with a sore throat. Her sister saw her turn over in bed at 7 in the morning and go back to sleep. That was the last time anyone in her family saw her alive. 1 hour later, her stepfather came home and found her bed empty. Her sneakers were sitting at the end of the driveway. She was 14 years old. 3 weeks later, a hunter found her remains in the woods 2 miles from her home. Her body had been carefully covered with branches and leaves. Someone had taken deliberate care to hide her. No weapon was found. No cause of death was ever confirmed. No one was ever charged. That was 1990. Christy Stephens has never had justice. Welcome to Dark Chronicles. If you are drawn to the unexplained, subscribe now. Tonight's chronicle only grows darker from here. Somerville, Georgia, October 1st, 1990. It was a Tuesday morning in a rural corner of Coweta County, the kind of place where everyone knew their neighbors and strangers were noticed. 14-year-old Christy Stephens had not been living there long. Her mother, Patty, and stepfather, Billy, had relocated the family to a mobile home in an undeveloped subdivision off Farmersville Road. Just a few months earlier, in the spring of that year, Christy and her 12-year-old sister, Alicia, had arrived with them, leaving behind whatever friendships they had formed elsewhere. In a small town, that kind of rootlessness is noticed. Nobody really knew the girl in a personal kind of way. The school principal would later say, "Friendships can't be nurtured in that short a time." Christy had been born on November 9th, 1975, to Thomas and Patty Kuzort. When her parents divorced, Patty remarried a man named Billy Stephens, who adopted both girls. Thomas remarried as well, settling in Alabama with his new wife, Wanda. By all accounts, Christy was a quiet girl, still finding her footing in a new place, a new school, a new life. She would not get the chance to finish finding it. On the morning of October 1st, Christy woke up and told her family she wasn't feeling well. A sore throat. She decided to stay home from school and rest. Her mother, Patty, was also feeling ill that morning. She returned to bed as well. 12-year-old Alicia gathered her things and left for school. The last image she would carry of her sister was simple and ordinary. Christy pulling the covers back over herself, rolling toward the wall. "That's the last I saw of her," Alicia would later recall. The back of her head. Billy Stephens drove his mother Dorothy to her job at a textile factory in the nearby town of Tryon. He was gone less than an hour. When he returned at approximately 8:05 in the morning, something stopped him at the end of the driveway. Christy's sneakers were sitting there, on the ground, at the edge of the road. There was no explanation for why they would be there. He went inside. Her bed was empty. Patty was still asleep in the next room and had heard nothing. Nothing at all. No disturbance. No raised voice. No sound of a door. In the space of roughly 1 hour, a sick teenager had disappeared from a locked home without waking her mother, leaving behind only her shoes. Billy and Patty reported her missing that morning. When investigators arrived and searched the mobile home, they found notes Christy had written. Diary entries suggesting she had thought about running away. Because of this, the initial assumption was that she was a runaway. "She'd been talking about leaving home," said Coweta County Sheriff Gary McConnell. But the context of those entries was never released to the public. When they were written, what she had written about, whether her desire to leave was fleeting or something deeper, none of it was ever disclosed. Law enforcement searched the surrounding area by land and by air. They interviewed classmates and neighbors. They contacted Christy's father, Thomas, in Alabama to confirm she wasn't with him. Nothing. No sightings, no phone calls, no trace. Her case went cold within weeks. 22 days after she disappeared, on October 22nd, a man named Rocky Wise was scouting hunting locations in the woods off Farmersville Road, the same road that ran past the Stephens property. He found her. Christy's remains were lying 180 feet east of a dirt road, at the bottom of a wooded ravine, beside a mountain oak and a dogwood tree. She was still wearing the same clothing she had been seen in last, a blue t-shirt with a palm tree on it, and jean shorts. She was barefoot. Tree limbs, leaves, and small branches had been carefully arranged over her body. The effort was deliberate, methodical. You could have walked within 10 feet of the body and not seen it, said Sheriff McConnell. The state of decomposition made a cause of death impossible to determine. The autopsy was inconclusive. Later reporting suggested she had either been suffocated or asphyxiated, but even that was never confirmed. There were no obvious signs of sexual assault, though investigators acknowledged they could not rule it out. No weapon was found near her body. A necklace, an earring, and a ring were recovered nearby, but it was never established whether they belonged to her. Law enforcement concluded she had most likely been killed elsewhere on the morning she vanished, then carried to this location and hidden. Someone who knew these woods had brought her here. Early in the murder investigation, one name emerged. 19-year-old Robert Lee Syphilis was declared the prime suspect. He was described as a self-styled preacher who had known the Stephens family and regularly visited their home, bringing his Bible, discussing religion with Christy. Billy and Patty acknowledged the visits, but insisted the two teenagers were never left alone together. Alicia said that Christy found Syphilis attractive, but maintained they had never dated. What drew investigators' attention to Syphilis was not a prior record or a missed alibi. It was a story he told them. After learning that Christy's remains had been found, Syphilis walked into the police station and told investigators that on the day she disappeared, he had heard her voice, a disembodied voice, he said, that he followed to a ravine, very close to where her body would later be located. He claimed he had not seen her remains, but he said he had seen something else, a ghostly figure, hands around Christy's throat. He had become convinced, he told them, that she had been strangled. Investigators were immediately alarmed. The story read less like a supernatural experience and more like a confession wrapped in distance. Someone who knew the location, someone who knew the manner of death, someone who needed to explain away how they knew. Syphilis maintained his innocence. He said he was only trying to help. Detectives searched his vehicle. They found no fibers, no fingerprints, no physical evidence connecting him to the crime. He was later jailed for check fraud. He was never charged in Christy's murder. Whether he was responsible has never been established. By 1997, Christy's father, Thomas Cuzort, had grown frustrated with the pace of the investigation. He believed that investigators had failed to interview people who might have known something. Neighbors, teenagers Christy had spent time with, people who had reportedly heard or seen things that morning. There are a lot of people who lived in the same house, and a lot of teenagers Christy ran around with, and neighbors that heard stuff. Thomas said The sheriff's department still has not interviewed any of them. Law enforcement insisted the case remained active. "We're still working on it," said Chief Deputy Charles Ellsbury. "Any leads or information that we receive, I will follow up on." In 2009, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation added Christy's case to the Unsolved section of their official website. There have been no further updates since. Thomas Cuzort passed away without ever knowing who killed his daughter. Billy and Patty Stephens have also since died. Christy's case remains open. The sneakers at the end of the driveway have never been explained. Why she left without them, who she went to meet, whether she left willingly or was taken, no one knows. Stay with us. The second chronicle tonight takes us deeper into the same state, to a different road, and a different kind of disappearance. One that began with an abandoned car and ended with questions that nearly 30 years have not answered. Subscribe to Dark Chronicles before we continue. Coweta County, Georgia, October 13th, 1995. 5 years after Christy Stephens vanished from a dirt road in Chattanooga County, a different kind of mystery was unfolding 180 miles to the east, on the outskirts of the small city of Newnan. For several days, an abandoned Oldsmobile station wagon sat on the side of Providence Church Road, a rural stretch of asphalt cutting through the kind of quiet Georgia countryside that doesn't draw attention and doesn't invite questions. The car sat there, nobody stopped, nobody called it in. When authorities finally investigated, they found the vehicle's owner inside. James Spurl, a local house painter, was dead. He had been shot. His killer has never been identified. What is known about James Spurl is limited, as is often the case with victims who leave behind small lives in quiet places. He was a working man, a painter. He had a daughter. The specific details of his daily movements, his relationships, and the events of the days leading up to October 13th were never fully disclosed to the public. What investigators established was this. At some point, James Spurl pulled his Oldsmobile station wagon to the side of Providence Church Road and was shot dead inside it. The car sat undisturbed for days before anyone reported it. In a rural county, on a road that sees little traffic, a dead man can wait a long time to be found. The investigation that followed was extensive. Coweta County investigators pursued leads, interviewed witnesses, worked the case through the years as technology improved and new tools became available. Progress was made, according to investigators. The details of that progress were not shared with the public. What was shared was this: someone out there knows what happened on Providence Church Road. "I believe there are still people out there that know something," said investigator Chris Stapler, speaking nearly 3 decades after the murder. And after nearly 30 years going by, are more apt to talk about it. James Spurl's case is the only cold case homicide still open in Coweta County. One unsolved murder, one county, 3 decades of silence. His daughter grew up without answers. The Oldsmobile is long gone. The road looks the same. And somewhere in Coweta County, the person who left James Spurl on the side of that road has lived an entire life since that October afternoon. 2 chronicles, 1 state. A 14-year-old girl found hidden under branches in the Georgia woods. A man shot dead inside his car on a rural road, undiscovered for days. Different counties, different decades, different victims, the same silence. In Christy's case, a prime suspect told a story about a ghost and was never charged. In James's case, The investigators believe someone is still alive who knows the truth and has simply chosen not to speak. 2 families that never received closure. 2 cases the state of Georgia has never officially closed. 2 questions that remain open today. There is a particular cruelty in an unsolved murder. It does not end when the investigation stalls. It does not end when the years pass. It does not end when the people who loved the victim grow old and die still waiting for an answer. It simply continues. Christy Stephens was 14 years old. She would be 50 years old today. James Spurl had a daughter who grew up without knowing who killed her father or why. If you have any information regarding the murder of Christy Stephens, contact the Georgia Bureau of Investigation at 706-624-1424. If you have any information regarding the murder of James Spurl in Coweta County, contact the Coweta County Sheriff's Office. These cases do not bury themselves. If tonight's Chronicle stayed with you, you are not alone. Subscribe to Dark Chronicles for new chronicles every week. Drop a comment below. Which case disturbed you more? The girl in the woods or the man in the car? Dark Chronicles. Until the next Chronicle, keep looking over your shoulder.